It is a challenge to create unified and consistent messaging across multiple channels to maximize any marketing effort. And our conversation today is with Amy Woodward Parrish, who is managing partner and chief marketing officer for Rhythm Communications. Well, I happen to love rhythm as a musician and know that marketing, just like rhythm in a music composition, it needs to be very consistent. Well, Amy has an impressive resume and some great insights on how to use integrated marketing, which is a strategic approach, both for businesses and for entrepreneurs, for consistency in messaging and maximum impact. So you're going to love this conversation. So stay tuned. This podcast is brought to you by DJ Works Media with resources and ideas for you at mid-career or half-time of life. Check out our online courses where we want you to not only start, but finish. Books available in all versions and songs available for immediate download with sheet music and instrumental accompaniment tracks. Our musicals are family-friendly with great music that's memorable and inspiring. Sign up at goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter for weekly updates. Now to our episode. Well, I'm so excited to introduce Amy Parrish today. Beautiful Amy Parrish. I love your hair, by the way.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's very silver. I've worked for every one of these gray hairs.
You know, you got a good resume there. It's beautiful. You can have it, Greg, because a lot of, I wouldn't let mine kind of grow out like that. I think it would look totally different. Anyway, I'm excited for you to share some of your background. We have a very interesting topic today, especially for any sort of small businesses, entrepreneurs. We are always, a lot of my job right now, and because I have so much content, is marketing and how I can do that better. And so I think I am probably going to learn a lot from you, Amy, today. I always take notes. And for everyone listening, there will be all of your links in the show notes, but I write articles every single week as well. So many of these aspects will come out in articles, whether it's not for this episode, it will be for another one. You will find it in there. And so some of those principles, which are very, very important, I expand on them usually. So let's give us a little bit of your background, even though everybody can read your bio. I love you being able to tell that. And what is integrated marketing? So
I'll get, yeah. So long story short, I'm a former journalist from NBC News. Mm-hmm. I went to the dark side, as they call it, and went into public relations. My first big career opportunity was at a company called Atom Software in the internet heyday. And I worked with a brilliant couple of folks that started the first sort of human body software programs in education. And so I had the opportunity to go from being a journalist, very young, very inexperienced, to traveling around the world to learn about how people are educated about the human body. So it was a fascinating way to start my career. Fast forward, I have a current firm called Rhythm Communications. This is my third firm, of which the other two were sold to larger corporations and brands. And I worked within those organizations, and now I have Rhythm, and I'm really enjoying this group that I work with. My team makes me look good, and we've been around about 20 years.
It's a great track record. So, well, how do you define integrated marketing? Because we talk about marketing and PR and sales. Just define that a little bit for us.
Well, first and foremost, I should say integrated marketing communications. We don't do any sort of outsourced sales initiatives. Mm-hmm. And I know for some people, that's what marketing means. Yes. So I want to be cognizant of that. Integrated marketing communications to me means that we begin with your messaging platform, knowing your who, what, where, when, why, and how, like any journalist would learn, and then taking that message and applying it to every channel of communication that your target customer might identify with. So, for instance, if your target audience is male, 60 plus, and your audience is retired professionals, he might read the newspaper, right? However, if it's a woman in her 20s, we know that those women quite often are spending more time online and spending time on apps and other channels. So first and foremost, we must define your messaging platform, define the who, what, where, when, why, and how, and be able to answer that quickly. Then we look at every tool in the toolkit, every channel there is, news media relations, social media channels, website, your visual and your verbal communication on your website, your search engine optimization and how you're driving people to that, your podcast that you follow, or the podcast relations that you could take advantage of or run yourself, digital advertising, events, even text or email communication. It all matters. But at the end of the day, it can be very cost effective if you're being very targeted on where the audience actually spends their time.
That's really important because when you're running ads, they add up. The ads
sure
add
do.
up. Ooh, yes. So if figuring out how to take advantage of the freedom that social media adds, and we'll talk about that too, but also, how much money do you really need to spend? And many times it's not as much as you think. And to be able to, put some of those wheels in place and keep them turning and all of that. So, and finding out what works. And that takes time. It does take analytics. It's stuff that the creatives don't like to do because we don't like to stop and go look at the numbers. Actually, oh, that's not working. No, that's not good news for us. We keep wanting to just throw stuff out there. So I think that's a very, very important point for that. So how has your approach changed? Because our world has changed quite a bit in going digitally, more digitally, but also there's that warmth that you want. And digital, I can relate a lot of this because your company is rhythm communication. Well, as a musician, I just think rhythm, but I also think about sound because digital is so different than the other, the acoustics of a liveness of a room. So a digital is just, it's numbers. So how people want that warmth with, the people and that connection. How do you relate with that? So,
well, it's interesting. So, being in the public relations business as my primary role, and then offering pretty much anything in the spectrum other than television advertising as an extension of what I do. I also coach people on how to communicate their message, how to be interpersonal. And although I may not be the most refined person in the room, I'm pretty good at coaching everyone else on how to do that. And so one thing that I would say is that I can't believe I'm even admitting this, but sometimes you have to spend times with CEOs to talk to them about how to be human in a digital platform.
Okay.
How to be warm, how to convey, how to lean in when you're not in person. And to demonstrate sincerity, because a lot of the people I work with are so talented, so warm, but they're a little stiff in a digital environment. And a lot of meetings today are, hybrid, or they're virtual. Right. And so that's piece one. So when you're doing media training, for instance, you're also doing meeting training to
Right.
make sure that the way that they convey their message and they communicate with their audience is warm and sincere and authentic. But the other piece that I would say is that many of our events that are in person are more extensive, more fully engaged. So as an example, a client will not invest necessarily in meeting face-to-face with the agency per se, meaning my agency. They'll meet with us virtually until the big event, the in-person. But the in-person has a much bigger expectation today. So when we come to planning a big event, and by the way, I've seen more large, all-encompassing events in the last year than I've seen in 5 years.
Wow.
So even in 2019, people were trimming back on that type of activity. So today, there's an expectation that there's a lot of full engagement for the audience that's on site. They have very high expectations. There's also an expectation that there's a hybrid option for attending those events.
Right.
And so even though you don't get the full experience of being in person, the hybrid version means that the attendees that are off-site can participate in activities while the person is speaking, inclusive of quick surveys or being able to ask questions virtually and digitally. Being able to ask questions in person, walking up to a microphone, capturing that footage, capturing that video, capturing those photos so that it could be repurposed. And then on the back end, allowing people to attend after the fact, remarketing those live events. So as an example, the digital world has not completely locked us down. If anything, it's heightened the expectations of when you make the effort to attend in person, it better be good. And so when we do that, we make sure that we have speakers, panels, hands-on experiences. They have to be all-encompassing. And we've learned that there's a high expectation for that.
I'm an example of when I'm looking at a conference coming up, I'm thinking, what am I going to get out of this? Why shouldn't I just click in? I've heard all of this stuff before. Exactly. But part of what I'm going for are the relationships. So you have to provide, some of that with, along with all of that, as well as have all the content. So, and record everything. Yes, the expectations have gotten larger with all of that, but people still want that connection together. In fact, it was just recommended again with some of my Women at Halftime courses and everything, just to do a small group, another for, like a weekend again. And I used to put some things like that together, and I'm thinking, do I want to go? That's a lot of planning. There's a lot to come together again. But people are craving that connection and being together. Another gal that I was with at an event yesterday, and she started a Monday night. These were musician group yesterday, which I don't work as much in that field anymore, but I'm very connected still with this whole group. And she started a piano bar on Monday nights so people can perform for each other, and she'll do a little bit of a training and all of that. She said it's grown. People want to just be together. They want to do this. And so it's just interesting as part of even a business plan. So we're thinking we got away from it, but no, it's grown. I think you are so right, Amy. That is true. So
I want to also suggest that, and I'd like to encourage people to really make sure that if you have a virtual option for your office, to do what I am doing, which is when you are in the office, make sure that you schedule time just to talk in person about what's going on with your lives, what's going on with your accounts, brainstorming on the struggles that you're having with your accounts, because sometimes in the virtual meeting option that we have every day as a team, not everything comes out. And so when we get in person, not everyone can do this. We serve lunch and we all just chat for an hour. Yeah. And that may seem like a waste of money and time, but it isn't. Yeah. Because so much gets accomplished by doing that. And I think as everyone spends a lot of time thinking about the impact of the virtual world on their business and their customers, they need to also think about the impact on their employees.
Great point. And spending time together, and some of our employees are across the country or they're around the world. I have two virtual, assistants, and but with one of them, I know she has small kids. We talk about her kids, we talk about her life. I see what's happening, and that's important. That's the whole first part of the conversation: how she's handling her 4 kids, and when she's working in the middle of the night. So that doesn't matter to me as long as she gets the job done. So I'm really, really happy with that. But it is. I think that human connection, we still need that, and we're not like, oh, this powerful business owner, and no, these are people, and it's important feeling that connection. And I think that's more and more, Amy. You can probably, that's a whole other area from what we're talking about as marketing, but even developing our team, they need to feel included and as a part of a team. Otherwise, they're just going to go somewhere else. So people are losing people. So anyway, that's a whole other subject. We won't get into that totally.
Well, hopefully you call me back for that subject, because I have lots of opinions on it.
Good. And you had told me at the outset, I'm pretty blunt in my opinions. And I said, good, that's what we want. That's why you're doing what you're doing. So let's talk about a little bit how can integrated marketing and PR strategies, they leverage some of our digital platforms to enhance the brand visibility. If I can talk, I'm tripping over words today, but probably because I've been talking so much today. But the brand visibility, and that's important for anybody. How do you cut through? How do you break through? And engagement. So, and can you give some examples? Because this is your field.
So, as we mentioned earlier, if you hone in on who your audience is, where he or she or they are living, if you will, and where they communicate, it appears that you're everywhere. So even though it may appear that the investment is great, it may actually not be. It's just that you have analyzed who the audience is and how to resonate with that group. And so the obvious, easy answer, when you asked me earlier about a case study, if you will, is repurposing the video footage and the photos from your digital events. So not only are you conveying them live in sort of a hybrid version, you're also capturing videos and photos. You're repurposing that for video-based events. And I've done that for several years with a client of ours called Caring for Others. They have an annual event called the International Poverty Forum, and they allow you to get up close and personal with celebrities that are giving back worldwide to major causes of things like hunger and clothing insecurity. And so it's been fascinating to see how people from overseas will engage in the virtual events, and they'll rewatch, we'll remarket, they'll rewatch to capture the content and the key learnings. But there's also this incredible in-person audience with C-level executives that are wanting to figure out, how do we give back in a way that's not cheesy, saying, hey, look at me.
Right.
But they have to justify those investments. Some people get upset when there's a nonprofit opportunity and the bigger brands want to know how they get exposure.
Right.
Well, it's not because they're not passionate about the cause. It's because they have to justify the expenses in a struggling economy. It is what it is. And so I believe that instead of looking at digital tools as extra work or making it harder, I think that digital tools make it easier and more exciting and more engaging for a larger audience that you normally couldn't reach. It's just making sure that you deliver that information in a compelling way so that those who make the investments to be in person get a more vast experience than those that are online.
Right, right.
That's the trick.
Yeah, yeah, that is a big trick. So, and to be able to feel again that warmth and that connection with all of the digital tools those are the numbers, binary code, and instead of the liveness of just the relationships, being with those relationships or being in a room. So, but yeah, the repurposing is another really, really important point there.
I am so sorry. We mentioned the human component. I have a
Yes.
dog in the background. I hope he's not interrupting you. He has a few things to say about marketing today. So go ahead.
That's very cute. I have to lock my little dog, my little Amelia. I have to lock her in the house because she will do the same thing. She'll see a bird, and then it's all over. It's, she's usually quiet except for when there's a bird. So maybe your dog is just saying, here's what I have to say about it. So that's cute. Now that we know what it is, it's a little better. You're going, what's with my computer? There's a chirping. There's something going on.
No, cute. It's my dog. That's the harm of not being in the office when I'm doing these things. Sorry.
Yes,
but I am a dog lover.
So. Oh, well, that's sweet. So am I. I'm allergic to cats, so I am a dog lover. So, we're going to get into some nitty gritty here, because this is really, really important, especially if you are listening and if you are a creative. But I have a lot of people too that are just very technical, okay, or they're data, centered. That's what they do. But we're going to talk about data analytics and insights and how important that is in our integrated marketing and PR campaigns, especially in the digital age. And do you have some favorite platforms? And I know we talked before that Rhythm Communications does this as well, but I want you to kind of get into how important that is and what that entails, because that's important.
So let me first suggest that my team is what makes me look good. My team is really talented, technical, capable, and so they make me look very good. In fact, a woman named Jen Grady leads our team for our digital communications and data analytics. Those reports are part of what guides the work that we do for any client, whether it's PR specific or it's a combination of an integrated solution. But they're always looking at the analytics. How did we impact the crowd that we were targeting? And so without that, we couldn't do our jobs. The tools that she recommends for what we do is Critical Mention and Sprout Social. And then we obviously use other tools for evaluating specific activities, such as Google Analytics for our SEO work. And then we also use just the built-in tools for social media. But I'm going to be honest, I don't know how to do all that work. That is what my team does for me, but they explain the value and the meaning behind the reports to our clients and help them make good decisions about their investments. And so what I would say is that no matter how large or small your company may be, you're accountable to someone.
Right.
And even if it's that you're accountable to your own bank account as an independent business person, those decisions have to be made based on a percentage of your total revenue, and they have to be made based on effectiveness. And there are different ways to analyze your effectiveness. Are you most interested in how often your messaging is repurposed and used? Are you interested in the branding and sort of leaving an impression? How are you impacting? Are they buying? Is there an indication that they're buying? Are they sharing? All that data matters, because at the end of the day, for instance, we work with doctors. We have several companies that work in the healthcare space. What we have found is that getting directly to the doctor through marketing efforts is pretty tough.
Yes.
So the best way to analyze whether we're making an impact is not purely on the sales cycle, because the sales cycle is very long in healthcare.
Mhm.
It's more around the pass along value or the share value or the share of voice that we receive based on the marketing campaign to see if we're moving the needle.
Hmm.
The sales follow that cycle. So you can't really afford to wait 90 days
Right.
to see if it worked.
Mhm.
So, in healthcare in particular, we have seen that targeting their assistants, their office managers, their marketing teams
Mm.
is a better avenue for reaching healthcare than it is trying to go to the doctors direct. That's an example.
That's a great example too. And you really do need to know kind of the numbers. And I'm going to go back to one thing where you said your team makes you look good. And I'm always encouraging those because I am, in many ways, I am a techie because I've had to learn it. I mean, there's just it's been a necessity for me. It's not that I'm intuitively just so technical. No, I'm just a lot of people a lot better, a lot better. I've been in the fit, but I know enough. I know enough to hire things out, and I have done a lot of my video editing. I've done all of that, but I know enough of what I need to do. And when I was getting somebody to do some more editing, I knew exactly what to do. I put that together, and there's important parts of that. So you know enough that you know what you need in the team, and you can figure out whether this program would be worth it for you, or they can give you those numbers. At least you're able to manage it. And that's important, not just going in ignorantly, because again, this goes back to ad spend, that you can just keep spending and not knowing where it's going. Well, you have to have some sort of an earmark, and you have to know enough who to hire. So if you don't need to hire the very top, you can hire someone here, you can hire a virtual assistant, that sort of thing. So I think it's knowing, using your head, using your, what you budget you have, what capabilities you have. And I think your insight, even in knowing where to put the dollars, knowing where to put the efforts on the office assistants. I mean, all of a sudden you've saved so much time, so many resources, not going directly to doctors. Boy, I'm going to walk away with that one today too, because I think that's very, very valuable. Yeah.
You also brought something up that you may not have even realized you were bringing up, but it's important. For our smaller teams and even our bigger teams in the marketing world, there's a tendency to say, okay, we need a PR person, a marketing person, a designer. In other words, there are sort of standard roles and responsibilities that every team thinks they have to have. But I think what I learned in working in the agency world and consulting with my clients is, why does it have to be a standard set of people? Why can't it be that you've got two strong players and you figure out what their strengths are and then build around them, or three? And that way, all of a sudden, you're not taking on the large payroll that's necessary to run a full in-house group or an external group. My agency is built on a rare set of individuals that have major skills and minor skills, and it's a puzzle. And I think that's been a win for us, because our agency has been listed in the top 20 firms in the Southeast for 4 years running, and we're the smallest one on the list.
Wow. I think that is such a great point. I mean, I hired my second little virtual assistant because I saw her strengths immediately. I mean, she's a young mom and all of that, but I saw that. I usually surround myself with organized people because I am, just because my tendency is to create and keep creating and I knew I needed some organization, and she just thrives on that. And so I had that idea, and the more that you use them in that area, the more you will learn about them and just develop them maybe in some other companion areas. That's a very, very good point, because not all of us can afford, your cash flow is very, very important, extremely important. And boy, even if you have funding, that funding goes fast. So it just, I follow a lot of companies, small companies, and you learn from all of that. So that's very, very important.
We also work with, Fortune 1000 on a regular basis.
Right.
And they love the fact that some agencies, not all, but agencies like ours are willing to come in and say, hey, I'm cool with the fact that you've got a direct marketing expert internally. You don't need us for that.
Right.
But we can do your PR, your social media, we can do your marketing materials. Or, hey, I have this incredible designer, but not such a great writer. That's fine. We'll provide the writing. When you're nimble, you can adapt to fill the holes of these other organizations. There's no reason for you not to function as if you're an internal team. It doesn't have to be us and them with your agency. And I think for a smaller company in particular, that's important.
And that's good on your end too, because it's not like you're just so stuck on, oh, we just do it this way. We do it this way. You're looking at the client need, and that's very, very important. It establishes a warm relationship. And as I ask this sort of next question, because it could be a hot button for some when we're talking about social media and how, what to use and where to go and all of that. But integrated marketing, a lot of your social media, that's free marketing, but is it doing any good? And are you able to cut through? And so you've talked about, I think the important thing is to going back to your first questions on the who, what, where, and how, and when. I think all 5, did I hit all 5? But, answering all of those questions, just like a journalist, and then putting those, and this is a good lesson for me too, because I automate a lot of my business. I have one of my assistants that posts things for me, but it's automated, and I need consistently to update that because, with new programs and all of that. But let's talk about social media and the integration part there, and how that can be consistent, and are they all important, or what are your feelings all about that, and to maximize impact?
So it's interesting. I'm probably going to be a little controversial, but I'm going to be open.
Good.
A lot of people don't want to admit this is how it works, but it truthfully does. So I'm going to give you the day-to-day normal customer, and then there's this other sort of whole other ball game called consumer marketing with multiple products in retail. I'm going to separate those two. Okay. So the first is for social media, particularly in the business to consumer space where there's not something that's being sold every day. There's not something being marketed every day, but you want to keep the brand top of mind. Or if there's a business to business engagement, people are busy. They're not living hour by hour on social media, although the younger crowd may be, unless you're targeting that younger crowd. If you're targeting the 25 plus, they have full-time jobs and don't have time to do that.
Right.
I would challenge that for most clients, if you created a social media calendar, an editorial calendar of posts that you can pre-schedule maybe 3 times a week, that's probably enough, as long as it's part of a bigger messaging platform,
right?
That directly targets the right audience. So if it's making an assumption of the audience for Facebook, as an example, versus LinkedIn, versus Instagram, you're probably talking about different types of posts, different tone, different targets. If you're talking about TikTok, that's a whole different ball game. But what I would suggest is that with 3 times a week of pre-scheduled posts, that will do your sort of carry pre-scheduling of content.
Right.
It's a good use of your time. I would also suggest that you should be reading and looking at the trends daily.
Mhm.
reading in the newspapers, watching the TV news, and then looking on the social channels to see what the hot topics are, the trends are for the week, and filling the hole with making sure that you're following the trends and you're reacting to the trends. You will save countless hours by doing that. And so we have found that our clients are very happy, and it's a very inexpensive investment. And so whether you're using an agency to do that for you or you're doing it yourself,
Mhm.
I would highly recommend. That's a really smart use of time and money and very inexpensive. The other thing that I would say is that it's not a waste of time and money to do multiple posts a day if you're in the retail food or retail consumer products space.
Mhm.
So, but we have found that deploying a time of day strategy to try to help increase your traffic during times of day where you're not as busy is a very good use of time and money. And you'll see a lot of the coffee shop brands doing those sorts of things. You see a lot of the consumer retail companies doing those kinds of things based on time of day. That's where it's worth doing, and you can see a financial impact. But for the average brand,
Mhm.
it's just not necessary.
Right.
And I know that's an unpopular opinion,
Mhm.
but in 2020, it was not the case. I'm saying now that the world is back on track.
Yes. And people are busy. You are so right. I talked with a gal yesterday that works all the time, but she hardly gets on Facebook, hardly gets on. She can't. I mean, she's got tons of, clients, and, it's just harder,
Yeah.
to be able to do that. So,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's a lot of people right now, that it may pop up, but if you've got it pre-scheduled and it's there. So it's just, at least it's running. But I think the time involves, and this is kind of one of my challenges right now is, I've scheduled these things. I have a yearly calendar, and I have to go back now on some of these to go and redo some of them, or to
We
see
only do
what's
them 2
targeting.
weeks out. Only
Yeah.
2 weeks out.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
Because
it's challenging.
the
Yeah.
world changes too much. There was a trend probably last year where people were saying you can pre-schedule a year in advance.
Yeah.
That is not possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Too many changes in the world. But if you spend a couple of hours every 2 weeks, it's worth doing.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Really good advice. I'm actually going to take that one to heart too. So, well, let's talk just briefly because we're running. I mean, this conversation goes really fast, doesn't it? I just want to touch on AI. And then I want you to kind of give a recap of some things that people can do right now, and then your information, of course. But how, is this changing in marketing? How can people use a little bit of the AI and all of that?
Well, one thing that I would say about AI is that it's certainly helping with keeping better records of meetings, as an example. It's also helping with catapulting the time frame it takes to draft a written document. But what I would say is that you have to be very, very careful. I actually met with another PR firm recently that fired a young man who used AI for drafting his press releases.
Oh,
and didn't quite do his homework or read the documents. He had missed a few deadlines, and this was his solution.
Yes.
The problem is that AI will continue to be more sophisticated, which is a blessing. I'm excited about that trend, but it's not there yet. It still needs to grow. It needs to evolve. It's happening quickly.
Yes.
But let's not consider it an enemy. Make sure you do your homework, you review what is developed, you make sure that the input is the proper input to get the right outcome, and then make sure that you're reviewing it from an editorial perspective, whatever you're writing. But the other thing that I would say is that you should never be afraid of technological innovation. You should embrace it and figure out the best way to take advantage of the of the opportunity to increase what you're able to produce, to spend more time on the mind work, the creative work that AI can't deliver,
Right.
and spend less time on the tactical work that AI can deliver effectively. I've had a lot of people share their in agency leadership, share their fear of AI. There's nothing to be afraid of. We've had
Right.
technology innovation the entire time I've owned an agency.
Exactly.
It's just adapting and learning and not being afraid as you age to learn and force yourself to learn how to use the new technologies. If it allows us to spend more time on the creative, the uniqueness, the first time ever development, the first time ever sound, the first time ever music,
Right.
then you've got more time to think, more time to dream, and less time to do the tactical work. I can't tell you how many times a young person said, I am so tired of doing the busy work. Well, there's busy work in every job you do.
Yes, everything. And I want to have the freedom of having my own business. Well, get ready to work, 60, 80 hours a week. So there is all of that. But I think
I still take the trash out and AI can't replace that. But what AI can do is help my team get a basis of a press release. So they're spending more time on the quality and less on the quantity.
Yeah. And it all comes down to proofing, checking, input, very important. We've talked about that quite a bit, even on this podcast, but how important the input is, and always check, and always, you can't just put it out there, period.
That's right.
Because there's facts they've gotten wrong, a lot of them, and you have to check all of the sources, everything. So that's really important. So good advice, and not to be afraid of it. And it will grow as we grow, but we need to keep growing as well. So, well, Amy, this has been delightful, and we could probably go another hour. I know I say that about a lot of my interviews. It's just so much fun. I get to meet people all over the world. Why don't you give some of your information, because that will all be in the show notes as well. But I want you to say that so people have that if they're just listening, and how people can contact you.
Well, I'm going to spell the word rhythm as I do this, because believe it or not, it's a hard word to spell.
I do know.
You can learn more about our firm at our website at www.rhythmcommunications.com. That's RHYTHM. Our phone number is 404-889-8966. And my email is aparish, APARRISH at rhythmcommunications.com. And I have the best team in the nation. They make me look good. Please give us a call. We'd love to help. We work with everything from Fortune 1000 down to individual owned businesses.
That's great. You've got your elevator speech all down too. Yeah, very good. Wow, you've been in journalism, you're in PR. You have to. This is what you train people to do, and you help those. I didn't realize this until I was really into my career quite a bit, but I'm a lifetime entrepreneur, so I understand how it is. That word didn't even come up when I was going through school and my education. They didn't talk about that, but now it's a big deal. And I encourage those even working with companies and in other larger businesses to have the mindset of an entrepreneur in developing your team and developing your area. There's a lot to that in that creativity and the ability to have ownership. So, well, Amy, thank you so much. This has been delightful, and wonderful smile, wonderful hair for those that are clicking into the video on these. But if you're listening to all that describing, and your dog's kind of been quiet now, I guess bird.
He got tired of trying, and now he's exasperated and sleeping next to me.
Yes. Well, he'll be ready for some cuddles. So, and for all of you, make sure you get our newsletter, goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter. And I have a lot other websites as well. You can get all of those in the show notes, and plenty of content. And that's I found this very inspiring today and interesting. I learned some things, Amy, so thank you. And I hope some of our listeners learn some things and they will stay in touch with you and follow. You have your wonderful website, and you'll be able to really help to people out that need that help. So thanks again. And I will look forward to being with everyone else the next time. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. It is because of our wonderful listeners like you that we keep going strong week after week. We'd love it if you'd share and follow us to not miss a single show, and even write a review. You can also find all of our articles, products, and links at womenathalftime.com.